Heavenly Father, we just thank you and praise you and bless you for this glorious day that you have given us. Thank you for this season. Thank you for this moment to sit and talk about your things, Abba. Abba, just thank you for opening our eyes and opening our ears, and may every message that is put forth today be received deep within our hearts so that we can nurture the seed that is in there, and may we grow and expound through this journey to your kingdom, Abba. Please help us to understand so that we can be a representative of you for the Goyim to see, because we long to see you as much as you long to see us. Abba, we put out a cry for your healing upon your people. You promised us that if we walk in your ways, that you will cover us, that you will be our protector, you will be our provider, you will be our deliverer. So, Abba, we thank you for everything that you've given us, and may your Ruach HaKodesh pour upon Eric as he opens his mouth. We'd love to hear you speak. In your precious name, we pray for all these things. Yahuwah Al-Hi. Amen.
Amen. So we're going through Revelation here for a few weeks. Last week, I was talking about the significance of the word Shin Bet Ayin. In most cases, like this, the bet, the letter B in English, the beta, the second letter of the alphabet, is pronounced as either a B or a V. So you might call it Sheva, Shevaim. So this festival, which many people are in the midst of right now, presently counting, in that this is the springtime of 2024, counting, it's not just counting, it's counting sevens. It's counting 7 sevens. That's Shin Bet Ayin, Yod Mem, Shava Shavaim. So Yod Mem is a plural, but also Vav Tav, Shava Ot is a plural, masculine, feminine suffix. So Shavuot, Shavu, you put a Vav, Shin Bet, Vav Ayin. So again, you can drop Yods and Vavs in between other consonant letters, and it doesn't necessarily change. Now, when it does change, just so you know, is if you write what's called Nikud, Niqud. Well, the fellow in John chapter 3, Nicodemus, or in the ISR translation, calls him Nikad Demon. In the movie Ushfazim, about Sukkot in Jerusalem, modern times, there's one scene where the wife says, "Die, die," and the translation, "Enough, enough, stop." So Dalit Yod, die, literally would mean that's enough, it's sufficient, just stop. So interesting in English, when you die, okay, your life is over, it's time to stop, you've had enough, you've done your journey, it's time to move on to the next, being birthed into the eternal, what we would call the eternal dimension. It's like being born. You're in a womb. A baby in a womb is only there until the 9 months are completed, thereabouts. And it's like, okay, enough in this environment, time to go to the next environment, which is this. And so this place, this cosmos, can be seen as a womb, preparing us, birthing us into the next dimension of eternity. That's when you die. So Nikadamon, Memnun, Mon, well, that's where we get manna, which means, what's this? So mem noon literally in the dictionary says out of and away from, which is to say beyond. So out of what and away from what? Well, there's just 2 letters. There's a mem and a noon. So mayim is the word water. Noon, they say, is the word fish, but fish is actually dalit gimel, dag. And tickle would be dag, wiggle back and forth like a fishtail, tickling. I say that because one of the words we're going to bump into in Revelation 10 here is that word. And, well, noon is more to multiply like fish, or multiply like grains of wheat. So you put one little kernel, one little grain of a wheat berry in the ground, and when it sprouts, it puts forth a stalk of grain, with a head of grain on the stalk. Could be what, 100 kernels? So to multiply by 100 or 1,000, like one kernel of corn, you put it in, you get a whole ear of corn. And the word corn, that in English, if I go to the grocery store and buy corn, C-O-R-N, well, it comes in a husk, you peel off the husk, and then it's typically either yellow or white. But there's some beautiful, incredible mosaic looking colored corns, especially from Central America. They're almost mind-blowing. The almost looks like this shirt, literally the purple and blue and gold, and it's like, wow, that's corn. But the word corn, as in cornucopia, and I remember hearing somebody once say, "Oh, cornucopia, that's a bad thing. That's a Elohim Achrim." That it's like, it means to proliferate with abundant blessing of harvest. And so a cornucopia is typically this funnel-shaped basket, kind of in a curve, with various vegetables and fruits coming out of it. It's a symbol of abundance, which is literally what the letter Nun is a picture of. And then that word corn that we think of as that particular vegetable, the word corn actually, you might say, like the word kuf resh nun in Hebrew, pronounced corn, Q-R-N, means power, privilege, this abundance of spectacle, spectacular glory and majesty, might, where you just beaming and radiating, shining, where, so the word corn in that sense is more of a, almost more of an adjective, in which case, when we see the vegetable, the article of that's a piece of corn, you might think that's an object that represents 1,000-fold abundance of beauty and sustenance, food, provision. That's the word corn. And so in Zechariah 2, verse 1, where it says, Zechariah is shown these 4 horns, Kufresh Nun. We might think, oh, like horns of an antelope, or some type of gazelle, or the little pronghorn antelope, or the antlers of a stag, an elk, a deer, moose, rhinoceros horn. And it's like, but Kufresh Nun is not just horn, it's a picture maybe of a horn, but it's what the word horn means. You could say, well, the word Kufresh Nun means horn. We're done. We got it. Let's move on. No, it means privilege, power, might, what you are known for as a cultural majesty. Now, in America, 20th century, 21st century, America has, might say, been gifted or blessed with the reputation of being land of the free, home of the brave, the place of beauty, America the beautiful, golden grains, fields, majestic mountains, an ocean on either side, an incredible load of resources. And then the people being, you might say, blessed with the aptitude mentally to come up with all kinds of inventions, technology, and artistic expressions. All those are Kufresh Nun. And you could say America, at least such as I know it. Now you could say, well, Babylon is known as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, as those hanging gardens of Babylon that we can't even hardly even imagine. The Persian Empire is known for spectacular beauty, artwork. Just look at some of the, you might say, the Islamic mosaic that we still have laying around. And Tartarians, man, those guys build things that we can't even come close to. How do they do that? Especially with just hammers and chisels and, horse and buggy sort of technology. How did the Tartarians build all these cathedrals and ornamentations? And, or you look at Versailles in France, was it Louis XIV? The beauty, the intricate detail of craftsmanship. It's like, I can't imagine having the patience to do one little bit of that, much less put together an entire palace pavilion. Gosh, what did people do with their time? They spend their life just learning how to do a skill and then spent the rest of their life doing one little thing. And there were so many thousands of people, they come up with that kind of intricate beauty. Well, that's all kuf noon. I'm just trying to get that point that you understand. It says horn, but it means the grandeur of the expression of the privilege granted to that people from on high. And the word El Shaddai, shad is a female breast, so it's speaking of a nurturing provision of what you need to build you up, to give you sustenance. And Shaddai is also a devastated, call it a harvested field. So makes me think of the movie Guns of Navarone. You know, these Germans during the 1940s had these two giant cannons, and any ship that would come anywhere near this one particular strait of passage, they could blast them out of the water. And some commandos had it as kind of a suicide mission to go try to remove those guns. That's what the movie was about. But the point is, El Shaddai, like those cannons, the one who's all powerfully able to devastate any opposition. Translated El Shaddai, the Almighty, God Almighty. El Aleph Lamed, translated God. And Shaddai there, not just mighty, that Shaddai is not really the word mighty, it's that ability to be uncompromised, that there's no question that anybody can usurp that authority. So no commandos coming in can take out those guns if it was El Shaddai. So this concept of El Shaddai's provision and protection, it's like, well, yeah, where is it? Why don't we see it now? Well, we kind of have a vision, a mind, a hope, an expectation. But I mean, really, come on. Our friends and family, ourselves, suffering, languishing in pain, you know, getting shut off notices in the mail. You know, it's like, what the heck? Why haven't I paid my bill in time? Gosh, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day. People call up and say, hey, can you send us some money? Remember the Iran sends some armaments headed in the direction of Israel, and people were on the internet, send money to Israel. It's like, wait a minute. If Elohim isn't protecting his people, you think you sending $20 to some organization is going to protect his people? Either El Shaddai is going to protect his people, or nobody's going to protect his people, and they're sitting ducks to be ravaged and decimated because that's his determination. If he determines not to protect them, they have no prayer, they have no hope, they have no chance. You sending $20, oh, help those guys, is not going to help those guys. Company like, let's just take the phrase Mercy Corp. Mercy Corp. Mercy, a corporation that deals in mercy. Hey, send us money so we can be merciful. Well, shouldn't they be going to El Shaddai, the provider of all mercy and compassion and assistance? I was reprimanded for going to a doctor to get my eyeball retina fixed. And it's like, gosh, if Yahweh's going to heal it, he's either going to heal it or not. Why should I have to pay some industry to do whatever they're going to do? I don't know. I can't say I did the right thing. Can't say I did the wrong thing. I don't know. Completely befuddled. I can see, thank you, but why didn't he heal it without having to go to those guys? I don't know. My point is, I have this hope and this expectation of what looks like Yahuwah's involvement to saving, delivering, and covering and providing for his people. And I say that because there's some words in Revelation 10 that we're going to look at that talk about this issue. And I'm trying to say, if the word means hope, expectation, what is the hope and expectation? that when he said, I will give Israel my people, ayin mem yod, ami, my people, the yod suffix makes it personal. Ayin mem is people, kinsman, nation. Aleph mem is also nation, and I say that because we're going to run in these words later. But Aleph mem is also mother, metropolis, means if or on the condition. So Aleph mem is you bring resources into the factory and the factory puts out a product for sale. Okay, that's Aleph mem. Aleph mem, the mother, brings in product. It puts out a product. She brings in male DNA added to her female DNA, and you get another individual of his own autonomy. That's the sense of what a mother's job is by definition. That's Aleph mem. Ayin mem is kinsman. Brother is Aleph het. So ayin mem is a little different, but ayin mem also is the word that means with. But ayin lamed can also mean with, together with. So it's a kinsman of a together camaraderie, something of interest. Eyeball, ayin mem. And again, mem is that like a womb, like a pond, a place where something grows and develops and then jumps out like birthing a baby on its own. So mem noon, out of and away from, mem is the place where things gestate, where things sit, where things abide. And then when those things leap out on their own recognizance, on their own, as their own entity, that's nooning. So I'm just trying to say, in understanding the spelling of these words, by looking at the alphabet and studying the alphabet by spelling words, word by word by word, is one thing. Understanding what each letter means is a particular thing, but then seeing the chronological sequence of letters, the way they are in the, you might say, the organic mem itself is the alphabet. So the alphabet is its own mem. It's that pool, it's that place where the letters abide. And any letter that wants to spell a word is going to jump out and, hey, I'll be that word, as it were. But to look at the organic, natural alphabetic sequence, and when you see letters in order, like the fact that it starts with Aleph is not whimsically arbitrary. Oh, hey, what do you know? Why does it start with Aleph? Why didn't it start with Gimel or Tet or Shin? Starts with Aleph. Why? It's an ox. It's big and strong. Well, so what? A giraffe has a long neck. That should be the letter Gimel. Let's have him be first. Looks like the number one with the big long neck. Makes sense. It's not about making sense. It's a matter of somebody or something caused the alphabetic letter sequence to be where they are. And as we said before, the world class linguistic authorities say that the Hebrew alphabet, which became the Greek and the Latin and the English, is a completely arbitrary collection of symbols which are assigned phonetic value, which are then in a haphazard random order that just became lodged there. And that's what we've inherited. And so this particular study of eriktology completely and vehemently disagrees with that notion and says these 22 letters, not 23 or 24, though some find merit in a 23rd letter, which typically would be what they call Gaian, which is a second version of ayin, like the letter bet is either pronounced as a B or a V, so the letter ayin might be pronounced as a vowel or this GH sound, and so they call it Gaian. Or some people think there's 24, or if you add the 5 Sofit letters, then that makes it 27, plus the ayin and plus the, so it's like, well, whatever. But I'm saying the 22 letters, just so you know, there's a distinction of this study. These, that's not a smoke alarm going off, that's that squirrel by your right. Squirrel! Just so you know. Somebody complaining last time he was up there about a smoke alarm. Why did I put a battery in that thing? The idea that Elohim himself came up with these 22 letters, these 22 pictures, and the sequence order, and it starts with Aleph, and Aleph, when you spell words, not always, but quite often, if there's a verb action, if the word is a verb and it starts with an Aleph, then it's translated, and you see it all the time if you just look at the translation, like with an interlinear, like Green's interlinear or whoever else's, where you'll see the actual Hebrew word with the English word right above it. Green's puts a Strong's Concordance number, and they'll actually have the translation. But when you have Hebrew on one side and English on the other, you don't know. I'll be talking about this Aramaic, and like that's a little bit weirder compared to Hebrew. It's still Hebrew letters, but it's like, which word are they talking about? And you have to have a process, a way to figure out which word is which. The interlinear makes it clear. And there's some online resources which will give you the Paleo, the modern Hebrew, the English, and the Greek, and the Strong's number, and they have them in different colors, which is a wonderful tool. But what I'm saying is you have to be able to know which word is which in order to make any sense of it. And if you don't know anything, that's just a place to start. But the idea of saying, if Aleph as a prefix letter means I am or I will, and then the verb action, then when you get the word translated, I am or I will, which is in Exodus 3. Who shall I say sent me? Moshe says to the voice at the burning bush, and it says, Ehyeh, Asher Ehyeh. Translated, I am that I am, or I will be whatever I will be. I will be such that, hey, look at, don't pigeonhole me with a name, with a role, with a concept you can wrap your mind around. I'm whatever I choose to express. That's pretty large. Oh, let's call him I am. Now you pigeonholed him again. You can't do that. Ehyeh defies identification, except it's 4 letters. Aleph, Hey, Yod, Hey. So you could say, well, if the word translated I am is also translated I will, but that's just the meaning of the first letter, Aleph. What is then the Hey, Yod, Hey? It's the verb of existence. Hey, Vav, Hey, Hey, Yod, Hey. Yod, Hey, Yod. Yehi, Haya, it's all the verb of existence. So I am or I will exist. I will cause myself to exist. I am one who exists. I'm not going to tell you how I exist. All that's, now you got to take your mind and wrap it around all that stuff. But if it's just in the Aleph, why the Hey, Yod, Hey? If you said, who should I say sent me? Why didn't you say, just tell them Aleph? Well, then we would have written Aleph Lamed Pei. That's how you spell the word Aleph, where we get the word Alps or Alpine or Aloof. See, every word, every utterance can be stretched out, and then you can identify the meaning of every one of those letters. If you think about Aleph, oh, that's just the one letter, but it's spelled Aleph Lamed Pei. But the Lamed is the 12th letter, and then the Pei is, oh, that letter way down there, K-L-M-N-O-P-Q-R. Yeah, that P, that's the letter Pei, but it's also pronounced like the letter F, which is the 6th letter, the Vav, or the Vav F, same letter, same word. What I'm saying is that every time you try to make it simple, it gets more complex. And the people that study the gematria value or study the meanings of letters, from what I've heard, when you say the word Aleph, oh, that's this one first letter, they also think, well, it's spelled Aleph Lamed Pei, and then Lamed is spelled Lamed Mem Dalet, L-A-M-E-D, Lamed. Pei is spelled Pei Aleph or Pei Hey or Pei Aleph Yod. So then you have to take all those other, and it's like, every time you try to look in, it's just like this unfolding, like a rose that just keeps putting out another layer of petals. The more you look at it, the longer it's there, the more lines of petals proliferate, and the outer ones maybe shirk off, fall off, and then another layer, another row from the inside. That's the way the language keeps working. But it's trapped within the 22 letters. The more you look at it, the more you see, but it just keeps unfolding around and around and around, bubbling up out of these 22 letters. That's the pool. That's the mem. So the alphabet itself is the mem, and what jumps out of the mem, the noon of the mem, is the meaning of the letters, is to see, to behold, to appreciate the kuf resh noon of the letters of the alphabet itself. But who can do that? If you are granted the privilege of kuf resh noon for yourself, to see the kuf resh noon, the nooning out of the mem of the aleph bet, then that's a kuf resh noon that you have, that you're given, that you've perhaps worked, labored to be able to appreciate for yourself. So one could say, well, how does somebody get that privilege, that horn, that kuf resh noon? Well, it should just be granted to you. Or do you have to study and think? Meditate is hey gimel hey. It's also navigate. Hey gimel hey also means rudder, helm, steering wheel, and to pronounce words. But there's another word, aleph yod tav, which means to spell words phonetically. Well, the phonics is the sound of the letters. If someone says cat, cat, there's only 3 elements, and we've associated those in English to C-A-T, cat. Okay, that's spelling a word phonetically. My mother used to teach kindergarten students how to read with phonics. It works. You have to learn at whatever age, a child or an adult, you look at the letter, you realize, oh, it has a sound, a phonetic equivalent. You associate that sound to that letter shape, and then when you read a word, you just are combining sounds. So that whole idea of abagada havaza chataya kalamana sachafata rakarashta, that's just the phonetic sounds of the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet. And then the more fluid you can make that sound, abagada havaza chati, kalamana sachafat karashta. Oh, it's just, well, it sounds so fast, but it's just giving a default sound after the consonantal mouth effect for every one of those letters. That's all it is. Why am I saying this? Because it has to do with Revelation 10. So the idea that mem noon means out of, away from, or beyond, I can give it the value of beyond. But mem noon also, mana, mene, means to count. Shin mem noon, shemen is the word for oil, but it also means to count and to appraise, to look at something, to evaluate something and give it a value. Well, that's synonym with ayin resh kaf, erik, as the word eriktology. And literally, ayin resh kaf as a word means to prepare. So New Jerusalem prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. The word prepare, like the 5 bridesmaids which were prepared with extra oil and 5 bridesmaids that didn't have the extra oil. They weren't prepared. Well, what's the word oil? Shemen. So shemen is the number 8. It means to count. It also means to appraise and assess. It's also the word for oil. Okay, and you could say, well, how does the mother get pregnant with the father's shemen? Shin mem nun, same English word, semen. It's where he is, what? His DNA is in there. Mem nun, then shin mem nun. Well, shin mem is the word for name. Not just name, fame, renown, reputation. And I heard somebody the other day give a talk, a lecture, sermon, whatever you want to call it, teaching that Shem means character. Well, the word nose, aleph pei, means character. Yod aleph pei means to characterize, but nose also means anger and wrath. So let's tell everybody that the word Shem means character. So if Yeshua says, pray in my name and your prayers will be heard and answered, it's like, pray in my character. What's his character? Well, he's the Messiah. How do you pray in his character? Oh, pray believing that he's the Messiah. Is that what he means? What? And then this person was talking about the character of God. What's the character of God? Well, what's the character of, let's call him Yahweh, or let's call him the Lord. Whoever is your one you want to reference, you could say, well, he's holy and pure and just and righteous and majestic and powerful and slow to anger, merciful and kind. That's his character. But you see, if I think of the word Shem, name, fame, renown, and reputation, it includes character. But if I think of his name, it's Ehyeh or Yahuwah. That's what he said to Moshe in Exodus chapter 3. Shem also means there, T-H-E-R-E, or here, H-E-R-E, which is a location, a place. So the heavens are called Shemayim, Shem Yod Mem. Yod Mem is a plural suffix, so Shem means places or names. Well, what are stars? There are places and specifically dots, points, a singular point of a place that we give a name to. Name the stars. Count the stars. Well, the word count the stars that Abraham was told to do in Genesis 15 is actually Sefer, Samik Pei Resh, the stars. Well, the word Sefer is where we get the word book or scroll. It also means to count. It also means to narrate, tell a story, or a barber or a coiffeur who coifs, shapes, cuts hair, and gives it a certain model shape. It also is a frontier where you establish a frontier of an empire, of a nation, by placing forts, drawing an imaginary line between them, a military line, and that's then, this is our territory, that's the other side of the territory. So to connect the dots and establish a zone, a picture, this side versus that side, that's all there, that's all Shem, that's all Sephering, Sefer. Sefer then designates or delineates Shem, place and name. This side of the line is this people with this name, this Ayin Mem identity together, and everybody on that side of the line is a different Ayin Mem. That's not this Ayin Mem. It's an Aleph Mem, some other Ayin Mem with a different identity, a different flag, a different thing that binds them together. And so in the scriptures, in the Bible here, what we have is two nations, two Aleph Mems or Ayin Mems. There's either Israel or everybody else. You're either Israel or you're what's called Goy. Gimel Vav Yod, Goy. Gentile is another way but there's another word that means Gentile that we'll look at in a moment here. It's Aleph Yod Dalet, where we would say AID, like aid. We'll talk about that in a minute. So you're either Israel or you're Gentile. For the scripture to say, those who believe, those who choose to adhere to the Elohim of Israel, become Israel. And there's one Torah, as he said in Deuteronomy, for both the native born and the proselyte, the sojourner, the one who is a foreigner who wants to become Israel. There's one Torah. There's no distinction. Now, from what I understand, I've not been, but if you go to a synagogue, they have like the bar in a courthouse, in a courtroom, there's the bar. And if you're in the audience, you're on this side of the bar, and if you engage the court, if you become a player in the court, you cross that bar. So if you pass the bar, you become a genuine lawyer, attorney, and engage the play of that sport in the courtroom with the referee judge up front. They call that bar on purpose. So apparently, from what I understand, in synagogues, they have this bar. And if you're one of the Gentile, one of the looky-loos, as they say, oh, what are they doing in there? You have to stand outside on the other side of the door, on the other side of the bar, and you can see what the real people are doing on the other side of the bar where they're studying the Torah, probably speaking in Hebrew, maybe some English, and if you don't know Hebrew, then tough. They have no obligation to translate for you. Your, what we might call riffraff or rip-rap. Riffraff is one thing, but the letter pay, there's the PH sound, which is the letter pay, which is both the F and the P sound, PH. Riprap is big giant boulders that you'll place alongside the edge of a harbor where waves come in and crash against the riprap, or to build up an embankment so you can put in a highway. You'll get these big long boulders which are jagged, and you pile them up. If you crush that, make gravel, another word we're going to bump into, that's a matter where you can compact it and pack it in dense, but it's the big boulders in the rawest form that are the hardest to move, which are the rip-rap or riff-raff. So it's a term of derision to say the riff-raff, the peasants, the Gentile goyim wannabe, wish they were, who step into the synagogue to look around. What did they say in there? It's like, just step back, shut your mouth, step back. We'll let you look a couple times, then just leave us alone. We're studying the scripture. That's from what I understand the attitude is, and I can understand why. That's perfectly reasonable, because you're either Israel or you're not. You're not this isn't a spectator sport for the Gentiles to come in and see how them Jews do it. Look, what are they saying? How do they do it? Just shut up. In fact, just leave. If you want to be Israel, you should be Israel, in which case you're called to observe the Torah. In fact, that's what the number 7 is all about. The vow, the great vow of all vows, the Shin Bet Ayin of Shin Bet Ayin Yod Mem. And when you're counting 7 Shin Bet Vav Ayin Shavua Shavuot, Shin Bet Ayin Vav Tav, or Shin Bet Vav Ayin Vav Tav, it's all about counting 7 sevens. If you just think 7, you're kind of missing the point. It's count the cost, count the demands of the great vow. What vow? The vow to be Israel on Mount Sinai. Yahuwah said, I am your, Exodus 20, first verse, Anoki Yahweh Elheka, I am Yahweh your Elohim. That is a sworn, because he said, remember Yeshua said, forget all this measure of how you swear by the gold of the temple, the ark made with gold in the temple. How close? Listen, let your yes be yes and your no be no. So when Yahuwah says, I am your Elohim, that's it. Doesn't need a qualification. What does Elohim mean? When he says his name is Ehia, his name is El Shaddai, his name is I'm your provider, I'm your defender, I'm your Yahweh Rafenu. He's the one who heals us. Well, then if he doesn't heal us, why are we going to some other Elohim Achrim, some other empowered, deified, white-robed? I don't know. It's very disturbing. Yahweh Rafenu. Yahweh is our healer. So if we're not healed, then we should say thank you very much. Why not? What else should I do? It's very disturbing. There's the rub. That's the conflict. That's where the point of friction for this whole business is. Life on earth, being his people. But the point is for him to say, Anoki Elheka, I am Yahweh your Elohim. Anoki Yahweh Elheka. Then with it comes everything that's involved, part of the packaging of being our Elohim. And he says, you are my people. I brought you out of Egypt. You're now my responsibility. You're my possession. And I'm giving you my Torah. And Israel said 3 times, everything Yahweh said, we will hear and we will do. That's the vow. Oh, did they put their hand on the Bible, raise their hand and say the words? They said the words, everything Yahweh said, we will hear and we will do. Now, as far as I can see, that is the vow. And so therefore, if we are of the lineage of Abraham, of the lineage of Moshe or David or anybody else who is that people that we can look to as a common ancestral root, why, we don't have to be of them, we can be of Yeshua, woohoo! But even he said, I'm not saying my own stuff. I'm only saying what I hear my Father saying and only doing what I see my Father doing. I'm here to glorify him. And whatever glory he gives me is so that I can take that and say him, pointing to him. It's always pointing to Yahuwah Zavot. Zavot, Zadi Bet Aleph Vav Tav. Nun Zadi Bet is a stab in a knife handle sticking up, stab in a sword, as it were, like Excalibur. And that thing which is planted, made standing, is there. That can't be moved. It can't be dislodged. It's institutionalized. It's established. It's solid. I say that because there's words in Revelation 10 that have to do with that. That's Zadi Bet. And Aleph Vav Tav is a sign, a symbol, an oath, an agreement, stipulated, which is just a synonym with Dabar, Dalet Bet Resh, but it also means Aleph Vav Tav means a letter of the alphabet. So if Aleph Vav Tav is a letter of the alphabet, and Aleph Yod Tav means to spell a word phonetically, which is with letters of the alphabet, and Haggah, which is the word to meditate, is navigate, rudder, helm, steering wheel, and driving around, like running around the stars, looking at the stars like letters of the alphabet. And Haggah also means to spell words phonetically. Then there's something about him wanting us to be about this business of spelling words phonetically. So now the interesting thing about, I mentioned this book before, Andrew Gabriel Roth, Aramaic English New Testament. The nice thing about it is that it has the English on one side, and it's written with Hebrew, modern Hebrew letters on the other side. Now I'm going to read this translation of Revelation 10. There's just 11 verses here. This might be different than King James or something that comes out of the Greek or something even with the ISR, but I'll just read this just so we know what we're dealing with. Verse 1, Revelation 10. And I saw another mighty messenger. I saw another mighty messenger. Okay. That word messenger is what we translate as angel. So he had been talking to one or had seen one up through the first 9 chapters, and now there's another angel showing up that descended from heaven. Picture what's going on here. The Apostle John is standing here. Something happens up through the first 9 chapters, and then he sees another angel descending from heaven, clothed with a cloud. He's clothed with a cloud. So he's not wearing a white robe, and he doesn't have wings. He's all fuzzy, kind of like blurry, maybe. Like your eye's not working so good. He's this angel in a blur. And a cloud bow was over his head. A cloud bow, well, a rainbow, like an arch of clouds over his head, a cloud bow. I've never heard of a cloud bow before. I'm not sure. I didn't look up what the ISR or KJV was saying, but anyway, this is the Aramaic, and so this is what it says. And his face was like the sun. Well, if his face is like the sun, it's so bright you can't even really look at it. It's like, wow, that must be, and his feet like pillars of fire. His feet like pillars of fire. Well, your feet aren't pillars. Your feet are, maybe it means his leg. Well, it says his feet. How could his feet be like pillars of fire? Well, I can imagine legs. So I'm going to now take the authority personally to not agree with what this is translated and change the translation in my mind and say, well, it's legs of fire, pillars of fire. Okay. 2 pillars of fire in his legs, but he's cloudy. So I see 2 vertical lines, and above the 2 vertical lines, a dot. So you got this blazing sun above 2 pillars of fire. If you can picture that, surrounded by everything else cloudy. But it's somehow some kind of an angelic messenger. Okay, anyway. Verse 2, and he had in his hand an open little book, and he placed his right foot upon the sea and his left foot upon the land. Okay, so his 2 feet on the land and the sea. So he must be like near the shore, like the coast of California, one foot on the land, or maybe New York, one foot on the land and the other one out in the Atlantic Ocean. And he's holding a little book in his hand. Verse 3, and he cried with a loud voice as a lion roars. And when he had cried, the seven thunders shouted their voices. So you hear like when lightning, bam, there's usually there's this crack of lightning, and then you can hear the thunder rolling when there's a storm. When you're up in the mountains, it can be almost got a little scary, a little unnerving. Verse 4, and when the seven thunders had spoken, I was about to write. Well, so the seven thunders are not just a reverberating echoing of God, this roar of the lion. It was something that was comprehensible, apparently, that he could write down. Verse 4. And I heard a voice from heaven saying, seal up the things which the seven thunders have spoken and write them not. Verse 5, and the messenger whom I saw standing upon the sea and the land raised his right hand to heaven. So he had that little book in his hand, and he raised it up to heaven, and he swore by him who lives forever and ever. Wait a minute, that sounds very similar to Daniel 12, chapter 12, where Daniel sees one standing above the waters of the river, dressed in white linen, and he held up his right hand and his left hand to the heavens and swore by him who lives forever. See, that's almost the same verbiage. Makes me think of Daniel 12. And so there's a rabbi, can't remember his name. Anyway, he was saying that whenever you see a little phrase written in one place, that the exact wording is it's written somewhere other place, that's a clue, that's a connection, that you should make that connection on purpose. So here I'm connecting Daniel 10, verse 6 with Daniel 12. In the capacity of the letters Vav and Zion, if you're reading through that correlation to the alphabet. Swore by him who lives forever, who created heaven and the things in it, and the earth and the things in it, and the sea and the things in it, that the time should be no longer. Now that either means there's no more time. That means our reckoning of time, day and night, with the sun, the moon, the stars, is no longer. And remember that Elohim said, if you could remove the reckoning of time with the sun and the moon and the stars, then I would also remove Israel from being my people forever for all the stupid, horrible things that they've done to irritate me and get me mad. Is this saying, okay, this is that time? Or is this saying, hey, Daniel, chapter 12, hide the words and seal the book until the time of the end. This is that time. This is the time of the end, that the time should be no longer, that the time has come to an end, and this is the occasion. Could be one of the two. Verse 7, but in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger. Well, see, this is Revelation 10, and right before that in Revelation 9, they were talking about the beginning of Revelation 9, the fifth messenger sounded, and then Revelation 9, verse 14, that said to the sixth messenger, loose the four angels that are bound at the great river Euphrates. And so this is the seventh messenger. So the interesting thing, when you're looking at the alphabet, you get through the first seven letters, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zion. And then when you get to the seventh letter, there's the Mishkan pattern. Tet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun. I say that because they're in groups, clusters. Samek, Ayin, Pei, 3 and 1, and then Zadi. Well, when you get to the seventh, it opens up the next group of seven. When you get to the Zion, it opens up Ket through Zadi. When you get to Zadi, it opens up Kuf, Resh, Shin, Tav. Well, when you get to the seventh seal, it opens up the seven thunders. And when you get to the seven thunders, it opens up what? In the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, is that the seventh son? No, that's the seventh angel with the seal, but it opens up Revelation 10. In the voice, verse 7, but in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, I'm just saying that when you get to the seven, then it jumps into the next thing. When you the seven thunders, the seven trumpets are the seventh seal. The seven thunders are the seventh. Just trying to notice a pattern here. It's like the seventh day, to recognize Shabbat as the seventh day opens up the kingdom. Otherwise, if you got the wrong seventh day, you got the wrong key and the door stays closed, and you can stand there just outside saying, well, we're waiting to get in, just like the five bridesmaids who didn't get in. I don't know you. Yeah, we're answering your invitation. We've been sitting here waiting the whole time. Remember, you were late in showing up. It wasn't our fault. It was your fault. Get out of here. I don't know you. Yeah, that kind of a disturbing thing. But in the days, verse 7, in the days of the voice of the seventh messenger, well, wait a minute. If the word seven means to swear a vow, and the word angel is messenger, melak, mem lamed aleph kaf, then is this the messenger regarding the vow? When he will sound, and the mystery of Elohim will be consummated. The mystery of Elohim. Now, what it says is, Samik bet resh will be consummated. Consummated. Does the word consummated mean beginning or ended? Or accomplished? Why is Samik bet resh a mystery? But that's what it says here in the Aramaic. We'll look at that in a little bit. As he announced to his servants, the prophets. Okay, so this is invoking something from the Torah, from the Tanakh, that Yahuwah Elohim told his servants, the prophets, that he was going to do something that was retained as a mystery. No, actually, the Samik bet resh isn't the mystery. That's the word for consummated. The word mystery is Raz. Aleph resh zayin hey. Raz, resh zayin, which is the word secret. As he announced to his servants, the prophets. So you have to say, he said he was going to do something, but it's a mystery. It's somehow a secret. And now is the time to consummate the resh zayin. Resh is the exalted man, and Zion is the seventh letter. Number 7 means to swear a vow. So here's a vow regarding the exalted. Well, Israel is the exalted nation. To be Israel, walking in the ways of the Torah makes you an exalted man, a righteous man. By definition, righteousness is doing what the Torah said. 1 John, I believe it is, chapter 3 or something, where it talks about, maybe I've got that address wrong. Anyway, the definition of righteousness is doing the Torah. The definition of sin is not doing what the Torah says. By definition, that's the only factors. Like you got Israel and a Gentile, everybody else is Gentiles if you're not Israel. So you've got righteousness, which is doing the Torah, and then you've got unrighteousness, which is not doing the Torah. Pretty simple, in or out, kind of black and white. Verse 8, and the voice which I heard from heaven spoke to me again and said, go take the little open book in the hand of the messenger that stands on the sea and on the land. Okay, so he goes, verse 9, I go to the messenger, telling him to give me the little book. And he said to me, take it and eat it, and it will make your bowels bitter, but in your mouth it'll be sweet as honey. Verse 10, and I took the little book from the hand of the messenger and ate it, and it was in my mouth sweet like honey, but when I had eaten it, my bowels were bitter. And he said to me, you must again prophesy upon many nations and peoples and princes and kings. So what the heck is going on with chapter 10? Let me go back over it real fast. There's 7 thunders that sounded, and he said, don't write them. Okay. He sees this guy with a foot in the land and a foot in the ocean, that time should be no longer. The mystery of Elohim should be consummated. And he says, eat what's written in this little book in his hand, and it'll be sweet in your mouth, but it'll be bitter in your stomach. It's like, what's the little book? What's written on the little book? Why is he supposed to eat it? I mean, it reminds me of a story with Elijah. Can't really remember. Elisha maybe, or he wrote some stuff down, and or the angel gave him something and he ate it and tasted like honey. And it's like, what are we supposed to do? Chapter 10 almost seems like a throwaway chapter in the book of Revelation, but it's there. Why? Somebody said something, but nobody's supposed to know. Okay, thank you for telling me that. Somebody else written something down and he ate it and it was sweet, but it was also bitter in his stomach. But I'm not going to tell you what it is either. Okay. So John was saying, hey, listen, I'm just being the newsman, the reporter. I'm telling you what happened. I'm standing here. I heard these 7 thunders, and they said, don't write them down. So I'm writing that down. And he said, go ask them for a book and eat it, and it'll taste like honey and then bitter in your stomach. Okay, that's what happened. I don't know what it means. I'm just telling you what happened. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Let's go to chapter 11. No, wait a minute. We're going to stay in chapter 10 here. See, there is that verse that it says, take the sealed book. I think it was in Isaiah. And it says, give it to the literate man and say, read this, please. And he said, I can't read it. It's a sealed book. Wait a minute. What does it mean to be a sealed book? Now, I could put something in a container and seal it top and bottom, and you might need a pipe wrench to try to break the open, or you might need to break the thing open with a hammer. But the point is, if something is sealed, like a safe that nobody knows the combination of and nobody can get the thing open, then it's like, well, whatever's in it is in it. And I'm not going to bother my mind with trying to figure out what's written or how to get it open. If Elohim wants us to know, he'll tell us. If he doesn't, then just move on. Why even talk about it? But he says, take, in this other place in the Old Testament somewhere, take the sealed book and give it to a literate man and say, read this, please. He says, I can't. It's a sealed book. I don't know what that means other than, is it a book that's locked up like something in a safe? And he says, and I said, read what's in here. I don't know what's in there. It's locked up, and I either have no authority to open it or I can't open it. Or somehow, if I saw some, I don't read cuneiform. If somebody showed me an ancient tablet of cuneiform, it's like, I have no idea what that says. If I see cave drawings, I don't know what those things mean. Petroglyphs, some lost language, that's essentially sealed. I don't know what it means. It's sealed. Circumstantially, because time has elapsed and all the people that knew how to read that are gone, I don't know what it means. It's effectively sealed. So when Daniel chapter 12 was told, hide the words and seal the book, chet tav mem, chet is a fence, tav mem is the word that means perfect, artless, naive. It's like, hey, I'm not putting my own stuff on it. Put it in the container where I can't get to it. It remains with its integrity as it was when it was put into that chet, that container. And so for me to say that I think that I believe, based on just analysis of my own free spinning mind, that Daniel changed the orthography. Now, I heard somebody else once say, yeah, we know Daniel's the guy who changed it. And it's like, I didn't hear anybody tell me that. I just, circumstantial, coincidental timing, logical reasoning, not that you can trust that, but Daniel would have been giving authority, permission, and ability to change the orthography from the Paleo to the modern. And that would essentially, effectively seal the book. I can't prove Daniel actually did that, but right at the time of Daniel, it became known, the language of Hebrew became known as Chaldean flame letters, and Daniel was the chief Chaldean, so that makes sense. Daniel had access to all the archives. He was the smartest, the wisest of all the wise men, the magi, the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, the astronomers, astrologers, the wise guys, the woo-woo guys, the guys that were into all that stuff. Daniel was the head guy. He would have and could have, and apparently was authorized. If the language in Hebrew was Paleo before about 500 BC, and if it was sacred, being that Yahuwah wrote with his finger on the tables of stone, and the priests had this Torah scroll that Moshe wrote and handed, that the kings are supposed to make a copy of. I mean, nobody would presume to change the lettering style. But Daniel was authorized to change the lettering style. And if he changed it from the Paleo to the modern as a secret code, but then it wasn't so secret because he must have given it to Ezra, who was a scribe, the priest, and then Ezra brought the new writing in scrolls to Jerusalem when Cyrus, the Median Persian emperor, let the Jews, the southern kingdom, go back to Jerusalem later. He brought with them the modern letters. Ezra wouldn't have had the authority, but Daniel could have done that. So if Daniel hid the words and sealed the book, then this idea of seal the words that John the apostle seal the words of the seven thunders. It's the same spelling of the word, Het Tav Mem. What does that mean? The idea of going back and looking at the Paleo unseals. So when he says, take the book and give it to the illiterate man and say, read this, please. And the illiterate man says, I'm illiterate. I don't know how to read. I can't read. What he said was, lo yadati sefer. Lo, lamed aleph means the negative, no. Yod, dalet ayin tav yod, I will or I have. Dalet ayin tav is the word for knowledge. Negative, I have knowledge. Samik Pei Resh is sefer, which is translated book, or knowledge of books means literacy, or I know how to read. So what he literally said was negative, I have knowledge, book. And it's translated, I'm illiterate. I don't know how to read. So see, even in the translations, all we can do, make it make sense. But if you looked at the 10 letters, Lamed Aleph, Yod, Dalet, Ayin, Tav, Yod, Samik, Pei, Resh, and assigned pictographic value to those letters in the Paleo, and then even if you didn't know how to read, you group those together as a shepherd's staff and an ox head, the one who commands the authority of the movement of this strong thing, like the driver of the bulldozer, Lamed Aleph. Yod, hand, Dalet, door to Ayin, understanding, Tav, Yod, my covenant. Samik Pei Resh, engineered structure, mouth, exalted man. Read backwards. The exalted man's mouth understands the structure of my covenant as the door to understanding what he should put his hand to. And thus he should, like guiding an ox, he should be driving his being in the direction as I, the Aleph, told him to with the Lamed authority of teach and learn. Yeah, just like that. There's the whole thing. That's what's written in the book. Though you have to say the words, I don't know how to read, in order to find what's written in the book. See, there's that kind of a mystery that I'm proposing is wrapped up in Revelation 10. Hey, Carla, how are we doing on time? Are we at the end of the hour?
Yeah, we're at the break right now.
Okay.